I'm Brody Folk,
I'm Eli Nelson.
and this is the Pirate Podcast. Today we will be talking to Coach Keith, who is the head coach of boys and girls tennis at PCHS. Coach Keith, how's your day been so far?
Wonderful. Got to see my favorite class already.
Yeah, third hour AP US history for anybody that's wondering. Okay, so we'll start out. You have districts coming up Thursday. Your season's kind of progressed really fast here, as is one of the shorter fall sports. How do you see your team going into districts? Do you expect anybody to keep moving on, or do you have any expectations? Team title, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so we are one of the three best teams in the district. It's going to come down to us, Grain Valley or St. Pius. We play Grain Valley tonight, so we'll get to see them. Pius got second in the state last year as a team. We're better than we have been for several years, and so I think as a team we're one of the three teams with a good chance. And then individually, Molly McBratney, our number one player, went to state last year in singles, and obviously she's back. She's a senior, and so I think she has a good chance of advancing. And then realistically, we have a deep team. I would say that if anyone else on our team, singles or doubles, were to advance, it would probably take at least a small upset along the way. But certainly I would not want to be playing against us in the semifinals, even if I was one of the favorites, because we just have a strong team this year.
With such a strong senior class, how is it going to affect you in the next couple of years?
Our team will look different, but I would say that what we lack in just like tennis experience will make up for in athleticism. Our JV and top C team players, I would say overall, are less experienced on the tennis court, but are overall like more athletic as a group. And so we'll look differently, but we should still be. I expect us to be competitive again next year. So.
Well, kind of building off that question, does it take more of an athleticism to play tennis, or is it more skill / fundamental?
Yeah, it's both. It's definitely a repetition sport. You could stick LeBron James on a tennis court, and he's going to look a little awkward at first. But in other sports, his athleticism would be superior. In tennis, the best players in the world are also pretty darn good athletes. But you can still be a really good tennis player without being a phenomenal athlete. But of course, like any sport, being athletic, even in golf, being a good athlete helps.
Alrighty, is there a big coaching style difference between coaching doubles and singles?
Doubles, you just have to be more aggressive. The points are shorter. You want to be have more of a first strike mindset in doubles than singles. That's probably the biggest difference, is putting yourself in a position to try to win the point fast, as opposed to sitting back and waiting. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time.
So how do you kind of transition from going straight to the boys' season right into the girls' season? Because the boys' season's obviously in the spring and the girls' is in the fall, but you guys kind of start fall workout. It's in the summer, I assume. How do you make that transition?
Yeah, we do all of our summer stuff together. So the way that we split our groups is not by boys and girls, it's by experience and not experience. So our top girls are playing a lot with the guys, and vice versa. It's just different. With girls, in general, I feel like the girls' teams I've coached in the past, a lot of them are a little bit more coachable, but probably a lot less competitive, whereas the guys' teams may be a little less coachable, but super competitive. They get better in practice every day because they just love to compete with each other, whereas girls, it's kind of a delicate balance. You don't want to create too much competition within your own team, because based on my experience, they sometimes will take that with them off the court, whereas a lot of the guys' teams, they can be beating on each other in practice, and then they go to Waffle House as soon as practice is over together. So it's just a different dynamic.
Alrighty, is there a way you can coach your players to control them in big situations? Because you were talking about earlier in class one day that some people can't, like, they can handle the big pressure situations, others can't. Is there a way you can help them, like, even if they're not the best at it, they can get a little bit better, like?
Yeah, I think the main thing is like you have to put yourself in those situations. You're not going to feel pressure against Grandview and Winnetonka and Ruskin in the same way that you're going to feel pressure against Grain Valley and Park Hill and teams like that are really talented. And so I think that's probably the biggest way to help somebody who struggles under pressure is to put them in pressure-packed situations because the reality is some people who aren't great under pressure will probably have to fail a few times because the pressure gets to them before they kind of turn the corner.
So I want to kind of go back to Molly. Obviously, as a freshman, she wasn't one of your top JV players or anything like that, and she made a lot of improvements between her freshman and sophomore year. What did she kind of do in between that year to make that big of a jump to where she is today?
Yeah, so Molly is like the prime example of what happens when you just go out and play a ton of tennis. I mean, she's probably put in more reps than, I would even be able to, I don't know that I can even wrap my mind around it. She's somebody who thrives on like repetition. And so, whether it was hitting with a ball machine, she took private lessons, did some clinics with other players. She's just spent a ton of time working on her game. It definitely has showed. Obviously, she's improved a ton, and her results show it, going from number 30-something to, I think she played 5 or 6 when she was a sophomore, and then has played number 1 the last 2 years, which, and has done really well. She did well last year. She's done really well this year. So,
being tennis an individual sport, how much of an impact does team chemistry have on your team?
Yeah, that's a good question. More than you would probably think. And that's why, you can look back at different teams that I've coached in the past, and I've had girls' teams that have had great chemistry, and I've had guys' teams that have had great chemistry. A lot of times people think of, high school girls as, stereotypically, there's going to be drama, and I don't think that's always the case. I think I've seen it in both teams, and I've seen guys and girls both have teams where they had great chemistry. And so I think that it's hard because it oftentimes is not something that I do as a coach. It's hard to manufacture good chemistry. And so there are some years where it's look, we're just going to have to suck it up and do our best. And, we may not go hang out off the court whenever we're done. But then other years, the kids get along really well and there's great chemistry. So
we'll head on to our final four quick wrap-up questions at the end about anything that might be tennis related, may not be.
Great.
We'll start off with the tennis one. What is your favorite college tennis memory?
Yeah, so I have probably the best memory. I had the fortune of being on 2 teams that made it to nationals, which is top 16 in the nation. The feeling of, and both times I got a chance to watch a teammate secure the victory for our team overall. They win, launch their racket over the fence, and everybody just mobs them. And, it's just an awesome feeling because, by that point in the season, they're your closest friends. You've been through everything with them, and so to experience that level of success is pretty awesome.
Do you enjoy singles or doubles more?
I was always a better singles player than doubles player.
Not much of a team guy. You're
that's
more
right.
of an eye above
Very
you.
selfish. But no, my game. I was, 20 years ago and 50 pounds ago, I was a lot smaller and quicker, and so I was never a big power player. So my game was more conducive. The speed and endurance was more conducive to grinding out singles matches than overpowering people in doubles.
So what would be one tennis event you would like to attend that's outside of the United States?
Oh, outside the U.S., I would say I actually have two. Wimbledon, just because of the prestige of it all. I mean, it's the most famous tennis tournament in the world. But I've had some buddies that have gone to the Australian Open, and even though it's in the Australian summer or winter, it tends to get some really hot temperatures, but they said it was outstanding. They even enjoyed it more than going to Wimbledon. So that's probably a 1A and 1B.
1A, 1B.
Alrighty, we know basketball is one of your big sports, but outside of tennis. So do you like college basketball or the NBA better?
I definitely like the NBA better.
Thank you.
That is a rare
Thank
comment
you.
for anybody. Normally people stare at you like you're crazy if you say
I mean, how do you not like watching the best players in the world?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Someone that actually understands basketball in a sense.
Alright, then who's your favorite player in the NBA?
Oh man, that's a really, really good question. Can I name a few that I enjoy watching?
Yeah.
Do I have to choose a
Well,
favorite?
okay.
Okay, you can give your top 5 favorite players.
Oh wow, top 5.
Or 3.
Okay.
We're not very structured on this podcast if you're a recent listener.
I need to go back and listen to what. Have you asked anybody else this question?
No, you're
No.
the first. I told you it's
Oh my
random
gosh.
for everybody.
This is great. Okay, so I really like. I'm kind of a Giannis fan because I like the guys that can play offense and
he's a
defense, and he's an effort guy. Like when your
Exactly.
best player tries harder than everybody, that's a recipe for success. So I would probably have to put him number 1. Except whenever I was in high school, my role on the team was to come off the bench and shoot threes.
Steve Kerr.
So it's hard for me not to sympathize with guys like Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, who just their whole game is predicated around knocking down threes. But I don't really like the Warriors, so
Oh.
it's kind of a tough answer. But
Screw you.
yeah,
Good
and
boys.
Eli, you probably have to cover your ears here. But I actually if I was gonna start a team, the player I would want on my team would be KD.
Huh.
He's
fair.
so impressive.
I love the Knicks, but KD, watching him in the Olympics was just something else.
He is really, really good. So I don't know. I think those would probably be my top choices.
Well, thank you for sitting down with us during your lunch. I know you're probably starving right now.
I eat during PLT.
Administration, you don't need to hear that. So,
6 feet away from everyone, of course.
all right. Well, thank you for being on here, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, thank you guys.